Everybody, can you hear us?
We hear you.
Hi, it's good to see everybody. See a bunch of familiar names and faces coming across. I think we got 18 people so far, Jim. Oh, wait, I think it does say 180. I think we're good. So
I was hoping for a few more than 18.
I think we're good. We're closing in on 200. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And thanks, Jim, for a great State of the Association address. Super great to have kind of pay tribute to everybody involved in this challenging years. Everybody navigated it differently and successfully, really. And it's truly amazing to think about that. So thank you for your words and to everybody that was dedicated to getting it done this year.
Well, thanks, Meg. It has been a crazy year, and it's been a team effort from staff to members to student athletes, just people all over the country.
It really is fantastic and amazing that was able to get to where we are right now.
Yep.
So before we get started in some of our questions that have been sent earlier, and we'll get some questions going, I think through the live chat as well. Jim had a couple of announcements.
Yeah, just one thing real quick. Chesney and Amy asked me to let you guys know something. And when those two ask me to do something, I always say yes and do it as quickly as possible. But there have been some friendly amendments, two friendly amendments at this point, to 21C01 and 21B03. And so the main thing is to know where to find those. So if you go into the document icon under the intro to legislation, I believe that's the session that's tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. There's an icon there, and you just click on that icon. The friendly amendments will be highlighted in green. So I think, as you all know, the proposed changes are in yellow, and now the friendly amendments in green. So you'll get up to speed on those, and then I'm sure Chesney will talk to everybody about it tomorrow morning.
Awesome, thanks. And thanks for having me back. This is kind of fun. I, give everybody a little bit of credit for taking a risk again and letting me be live with you. But it's super great to be here in person, and can't wait to see everybody in person in the future. So we'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions that have come in. And I kind of categorized them a little bit as they come in. So we're going to start with the legislative questions that came in over the last couple of days. The first one is about some proposed legislation. And in it, the basketball schedule is reduced from 30 to 28 games. In the past, with 30 games, they've been allowed 2 exhibition or scrimmages. Will those games still be allowed if reduced to 28?
Yeah, so my understanding is those scrimmages and exhibitions would still stay in place. So it's reducing the total number of games by 2, but you can still have your exhibitions and scrimmages.
Good news. Good news, good answer. Well done. Okay, another legislative question that came in. The legislation about start dates and contest limits seem at odds with the NAIA's general position of allowing autonomy to conferences and schools. Why are we adding those restrictions?
Yeah, so just kind of a refresher to some, or maybe new to certain folks. The Council of Presidents asked administrators through the NAC to take a look at what was kind of considered to be potential schedule creep. So seasons kind of were starting earlier, kids were coming back to campus earlier, and then over time, some sports had continued to add competition. And so I don't see it as necessarily adding restrictions, but taking a look at the guidelines and the limits that we have in place and determining is that what NAIA members want. And so now that legislation is coming before the body after a lot of work by a bunch of different committees, and again, at the direction of the COPs. And I think what you're seeing is that this group thinks that some reduction in number of contests. I think the idea is to give student athletes a chance to do other things on campus and to shorten the seasons a little bit. Is kind of one concept, although it's less than 10% across the board seems to be kind of where they landed. And then the other question in there is, do we want to have a start date, especially in the fall, so that all schools are kind of coming back at around the same time? I think presidents were feeling like, if you have to open up the dorms and start to feed the student athletes August 1st, that's a challenge, and it's costly in a time when people don't have a lot of extra money lying around. So this is coming from the membership, from leaders in the membership, and then the group will have a chance to vote on it.
Good, yeah. And again, like you said, this isn't something that's brand new. This has been a topic of discussion and conversation that has taken the research and the time that the committees have put into coming up with this legislation.
Yeah. And those numbers over the years, I've been here 23 years, they've gone up and down in various sports over the years. So I think it's a conversation that we'll continue to have for a long, long time, and just trying to figure out what's the right balance of a very robust season and a lot of competition with, again, allowing student athletes to do other things on campus.
Very good. Thank you. Another kind of piece of legislation question, you referred to the name, image, and likeness. And that video from Chloe was really, really awesome.
That's great.
And I'm going to follow her on the tick and the talk. Is that what the kids are calling it these
Something like
days?
that,
Oh,
I
okay.
think,
Yeah, we were joking about my MySpace page, and
Right.
I guess I got to catch up a little bit. But no, yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, the question refers to that, and that's as states continue to propose and pass specific NIL bills. Is our current legislation aligned with what is going to be effective as law starting in July, or will we need to address any inconsistencies?
Yeah, the intent and this has been over a long period of time too, when we started changing these rules 4, 5, 6 years ago and really got through the last restrictions just last year. And with those, with the most recent changes, the intent was to put us in a place so that schools didn't have to choose between, do I comply with the state laws and can I comply with NAIA rules? And so our rules are pretty wide open now in that area. And so really the schools should be mostly worried about complying with their state laws and seeing if those work. Now, the schools have a lot of flexibility within this to restrict certain kinds of sponsorships or things that their student athletes can represent if it's in conflict or maybe doesn't. So there's a lot of opportunity for schools to do it the way they want, but they shouldn't have too much trouble complying with state laws and NAIA rules.
And where, this isn't, I'm not on a campus particularly anymore, but where are we as far as the number of states that are starting to implement those things?
Yeah, and there's a session later in the week, and I encourage everybody to come. We'll update a lot of those things, but it looks like almost every state is headed that way. I believe there are either 5 or maybe there's 6 now whose laws are scheduled to come into play this July 1, okay. So just over a month from now, and then another dozen next year, and then beyond that. So it's coming at us pretty quickly, and our friends in Indianapolis are really they're in a sprint to try to get something out before July 1.
Mm-hmm. Well done by the NAIA to kind of get ahead of that, and again, keeping it high on the radar as those things start to come into play. Moving into kind of a couple of questions related to transfer. It seems like the transfer portal is really, really big. You hear about it all the time with the other organizations. So the first question is, will the NAIA follow the NCAA in allowing student athletes to transfer without a release from their previous institution? Currently, NCAA D2 and D1 schools do not need a release from NAIAs to recruit their athletes. Why does the NAIA require a release from NCAA D2 and D1 schools if they don't do the same?
Yes, maybe I'll kind of take it in 2 parts. The first around the portal, it'll really be up to our membership if people are studying what the NCAA is doing around the portal. My understanding is that's, I think exclusively or almost exclusively NCAA Division I. And so I haven't been hearing many of our members talk about the need for a transfer portal. But if that's something that over time people wanted to do, we'd certainly be willing to consider it. And if it brings some light to who all's out there and wanting to transfer, but right now there doesn't seem to be a demand for it. On the other side, in terms of kind of what the rules are around transferring, currently we don't require a release from an NCAA school in order to transfer. So I think the question may have indicated that we do. And the NCAA, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, D2 especially, changed their transfer rules where now they didn't need permission from an NAIA school to come in and talk to one of our student athletes. And so that was changed. But what it really did was now put them in a similar place to where we've always been. Our rules just are all about asking for permission to talk with someone, but there's nothing about a release or anything like that. So our rules really haven't changed, and I think they're pretty consistent now with that change in NCAA D2. I think it seems different to people because it does give NCAA schools more freedom and makes it easier for them to come talk to NAIA student athletes, but we're kind of on a level playing field at this point.
Gotcha, good. So similarly then, do you see the NAIA having any plans to create its own transfer portal?
I haven't heard people talking about that. So if it's something people want to consider, we certainly would, but it just doesn't seem to be out there right now, much demand for it.
And like everything that comes from the membership.
Yeah.
So if there's interest, the membership kind of drives that, and if it becomes a talking point, so be it.
Right, absolutely.
Good. Now we've got some obviously COVID being top of mind for us for the last 14 months. A couple COVID related questions. So I thought this one was really interesting. There are reports of youth rates of video game playing increasing during the pandemic as traditional sports decreased or were put on hold. Do you think that will have any impact on esports or the traditional athletics model?
You know, it could, and I can have a case study of one. I have a 17-year-old son who plays some video games, and during COVID, when he couldn't get out and play basketball or do other things, he and his buddies were playing more video games. But I also think at the same time, whether it's him or just other, because people are itching to get back out to what they consider sort of normal life. So if young people like to play traditional sports, I think they'll be right back where they already are, right back at it now that things have opened up. We have about 200 colleges that are in NAIAS now in our esports association, and I think that's going to grow as well. But I don't see much data or many signs that that's going to impact traditional sports. Seems like traditional sports are as popular as ever. Now, whether students will continue to play traditional high school sports or they'll do it more through clubs and things like that, I think that's continuing to evolve. But the overall numbers don't seem to be going down.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I do think, I feel like the topic of interscholastic versus club is going to be something that we talk about here in the near future as well.
I agree. And our friends at the NFHS are working really hard to make sure that people understand the benefits of high school sports being as part of education and being in the schools, and just the training they can do for coaches and all those kinds of things that bring some advantages to the club sport scene. Not that that doesn't have its advantages as well, but I certainly hope that traditional high school sports stay strong for a long, long time.
Agree. I love this question too. This year, the NAIA conducted its first women's flag football championship event in affiliation with NFL flag. Are there other similar emerging sports partnerships that the NAIA is considering? I'll let you answer that one first.
Yeah, I mean, we're very interested in all emerging sports. Women's wrestling was a big hit and a big draw. Even a few years back, I never thought we'd have bowling championships, but we have men's and women's bowling now, and so we'll continue to look at those kinds of things. The flag really got such a jump start because of the support of the NFL. And we all know what a marketing juggernaut the NFL is, and so and they gave us some nice seed money, so schools had some money to get up and running. And then I just came back, a couple weeks ago from our first. It was an invitational essentially, but these young women got to play in the Georgia Dome and the Mercedes-Benz Dome, and so it's what it gets me to is if we can find, the NBA wants to help us start 3-on-3 basketball, for example, or I don't know if Major League Baseball has anything going, or MLS or these others, but if we can find partnerships like that, it sure helps to jumpstart things, and so we're continuing to look for that. We have had the governing bodies from a lot of different sports come into our convention in recent years, and I think we'll continue that because we're looking for partnerships and just want to give kids an opportunity to do things they love. And if that can be a way for our schools then to get more students onto campus, it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a cool event too.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. Kind of connected to that, what is or will be done from an ROA perspective to help schools understand how emerging sports can have an impact on their campus?
Yeah, well, I know Alan Grossbach and the team are continuing to make that a core part of ROA, not only helping people understand with what you're doing now, how can you make those better, either more profitable or get more students there, make it a better experience, but then also what are the other things that are out there. And, I don't know if we'll get too far away from traditional sports and things. I get emails from people about marching band, that we want to figure out a way to better structure that and help schools figure that out. And it's something interesting to talk about. Right now we're not pursuing those kinds of things, but it's at the high school level, for instance, most of those state activity associations, it's sports and activities, so we certainly could, whether it's debate or other things could be a part of the equation down the road.
I remember a couple of years ago, Olympic sports seem to kind of have some momentum. Do you see that kind of continuing? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I know the USOPC, it's always hard for me to remember put the P in there with Paralympic Games, but they've been really wanting to get in active conversations with the the collegiate sports, basically, to figure out how we can help support a lot of the Olympic movement in sports that don't get as much attention as football and basketball. Yeah. And so I think there's some good opportunities to partner there as well. And then, there's X Games, there's all these other things that are out there. My predecessor, Steve Baker, used to talk a lot about mountain biking and bass fishing. And it doesn't seem like there's a big enough group of schools to come together to form those kinds of championships. But again, who knows what the future is going to hold. I never thought we'd have 200 schools doing esports 5 years ago. So it's fun to watch.
That's great. That's fantastic. Still kind of back on the COVID track here. Do you anticipate that mass championship testing will continue at the 21-22 championships for individuals that have yet to be vaccinated?
I certainly hope by November, when our next round of championships, that we'll be in whatever normal looks like. I don't know if it's going to be normal like it was 2 years ago, but so I would hope that we're not having to test, and we're, the students, we're not having to mask, we're not having to do a lot of the things we had to do to get through these championships. But like I said, in the State Association, I was saying a year ago that, man, if this lasts through the summer, I'm going to go crazy. And 12 months later, we're still just coming out of it. But so I'm not. I guess the point is, I'm not very good at predicting these things, but I would hope that it's pretty much business as usual come the fall.
Great. I think everybody's on that same page,
Yeah.
and really hoping that we're moving that way. I think two more maybe COVID related, and then I do think we have a couple of questions coming up here, so we'll take a look at that in a minute. Coming out of this COVID year, we hope, what do you believe will be the impact of the pandemic on schools' financial viability over the next few years, and what does that mean for the NAIA?
Yeah, and the good news in that is, when this all started, and with a lot of the headwinds that were being reported, especially for small privates, people were predicting that COVID was going to be the death knell for a lot of schools. And we've had a couple of schools in the last year that have merged, but none that have closed their doors. And so it seems like people are weathering really well. And at least anecdotally, we don't have all the data in yet, but a lot of presidents I talk with, enrollment's up, and I think especially retention, people are really sticking with schools that are showing more loyalty in that regard. So I'm optimistic that things are going to continue to either stay the same or get better, but we'll have to see sort of once PPP and the educational incentives and different things that our schools were able to take advantage of, when those go away. I think there'll be some challenges, but I think our schools are resilient, and they're going to keep fighting.
Yep, absolutely. Very good. Probably a question that's on everybody's mind. Does the NAIA anticipate being back to normal for 21-22?
Yeah, and as we were just talking about before, I think so. I hope so. But I think we're going to plan as though we might not be. I mean, that's kind of the way we got through COVID, and I think it served us pretty well. Is that old saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So we'll continue to think about any safety protocols and measures we need to take, but I certainly hope it'll be more like normal. And I think one of the great things that we did, and not we as a staff, but as leadership groups, were to give autonomy to institutions and conferences. And so it'll really be, when we get back in August, it'll really be up to the schools and the conferences to figure out what do they want to do getting up and running. And my guess is you'll see, just like it happened all over the country, some states were wanting to play really, really cautious, and others were opening up quicker. And I think it'll be the same in August.
Yeah, good. Well, I want to ask a question personally.
Absolutely.
How are you doing? How is the staff doing? You alluded to it in the State of the Association, but I need to say thank you. I think it's absolutely amazing. I was able to be a part of some of the COVID testing at 3 or 4 different national championships, work with a variety of your staff from the national office, and every experience was phenomenal. Your staff was fantastic. The fact that you guys have put together, are we through 23 championships now?
Yeah.
National championships since February.
Right.
We're not going back to November, since February, and be able to provide experiences for our student athletes has just been phenomenal. So thank you for that. And how's everybody doing?
Well, thank you, and thanks to all the members. I mean, I think our staff would want me to say, we couldn't have gotten through this without our members. They're one, that's who we're here to work for, but also just lots of people like you asking, how are we doing? Anything we can do to help. And then people like you and Gina and Matt and Lori and others that we showed them during the State Association just jumping right in. But in terms of the staff, I'll be honest, I think people are tired. It's been a long 14 months, but especially as you said, long 90 days or whatever. But I just couldn't be more proud of the job that people have done. And when I said on the State Association that every single staff member was a part of championships, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, every single one. And so, and on top of doing the regular jobs. So, but I always also want to point out too that that's not really any different on campus or in a conference office. I mean, everything was just on top of each other these last 3 or 4 months, but people are in this business because they want to provide for student athletes, and they want to just just help. And so it's been a great team effort, and it makes me proud just to be a part of it, but also just all the great people we have. They're working for the right reasons.
Well, I'm proud to be a part of it too, and proud of everybody for all the work that has been done. And I think we're done with these questions. I, of course, have our fun rapid fire questions.
Okay, I can't wait.
But let's see, do we have some in here? Let's see. Robin, hi, Robin. I believe my registrar said that when she's completing ECP software for eligibility, there's a clear question attached to transfers that ask, do you have a release? Has that been removed? If not, does the system distinguish between NAIA?
Yeah, and Robin, let me first say that we need to double check this with the experts. I'm getting out over my skis since I don't deal with this all the time. But I think the notation of a release or the distinction of needing a release has to do with whether you have to serve the residency or not.
Right.
And so if you get a release, and that whether you're at an NCA school or an NAIA school, then you potentially wouldn't have to serve the waiting period or essentially one semester, 16 weeks, I think it is in residency. But in terms of what I was thinking the previous question was more about is in order to contact a student who's at another school, you don't have to get a release from that school in order to have discussions about that student ethnic transferring to your institution. But again, ask Chesney or Brenda or Lindsay, they can clean up behind me if I'm not exactly right in that.
I haven't been on a college campus in about 6 years now, but that's how I recall it too. But yeah, they're the pros, that's for sure. Oh, see, look at Chesney says you got it. Nailed it. Well done.
Thanks, Chesney.
Fantastic. Hasn't lost it at all. Were there any other questions? Can you scroll up or down at all? That doesn't look like it.
An easy group today.
Now we get the fun stuff.
All right, let's go.
The get to know Jim Carr questions.
Great.
And he does not know these, so this is
I have two
always really fun.
teenagers. They'll be cringing as if they ever see this.
Okay, I'm sure everybody has an answer to this question, but are you binge watching anything, or what have you binge watched during the COVID?
Yeah, I've always essentially binge watched sports. I watch a lot of sports,
Sure.
but during COVID, yeah, my wife and I have been watching various things. We just got finished watching a show called Bosch, which is a detective in LA, and then we watched The Blacklist and NCIS New Orleans. We have an affinity for New Orleans, so watch that. We had started a few that then couldn't keep going, like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Of course, Ted Lasso, everybody's favorite. Just everybody's waiting for the second season on that one. So those are some that come to mind.
Nice, well done. Yeah, Ted Lasso.
Watching too much TV, but there for a while is all we could do, pretty much.
I know, I totally agree. And once we got stuck inside in the Midwest, like with nothing else to do. But Ted Lasso was, I think, my favorite. If I were to pick a favorite COVID binge, Ted Lasso.
Lynn Parman, some of you have met our fairly new COO, just said, you got to watch Ted Lasso. She's a big cheerleader of Ted Lasso.
Fantastic. Yep, they can't make season 2 fast enough. Favorite vacation destination?
Pretty much anywhere with a beach and some nice, clear, warm water. I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico, so we kind of head down that way, a little more on the Gulf side where the water's too cold in the Atlantic or even the Pacific, so we head to the Gulf.
That's a nice place.
And you can head out to an island somewhere, but these days, if I can just get to the water, I'm good.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, this is a really fun one. If you became what you wanted to be as a kid, what would you be doing now?
Oh, I wouldn't still be playing in the NBA at 54, but I would have been a professional basketball player and probably, I guess, then worked in there. But I knew pretty early on that my genes or my DNA weren't going to make that a reality, so I shifted over to the administrative side. But yeah, that was my dream as a
NBA.
kid. Yeah.
I was going to be Evel Knievel.
Oh, that's even more exciting. A little more painful. Though.
The young kids don't know Evel Knievel. But
they don't, but I think
he was a rock star.
I think he broke every bone in his body.
I know, but he bounced back up. He was like, he survived.
He did.
Yeah, I thought he was
says
cool.
a lot about you.
I thought he was pretty cool.
He was cool, no doubt, no doubt.
Okay, want to share something that's on your bucket list?
Oh, on my bucket list. Actually, we're going to take a vacation down to Mexico. We've not ever done that before, so that'll check that off my bucket list. Besides that, I still want to make it to the Masters. I've never done it. It's always right around the same time as convention, so maybe I'll have to wait till I retire to do that. I'd love to play Augusta, but I think it's more likely that I could buy a ticket as opposed to actually getting to play.
Amy, convention in Augusta.
We just had men's soccer there, and they did a great
That's
job.
right.
So
That's right.
I think rumor has it Tony Bybee tried to sneak into Augusta National, but I don't think he got arrested, but he didn't make it past the gates, I don't think.
No, Tony gets stopped a lot of places, I think.
Been kicked out of worse places, that's what you're saying.
Sorry, Tony. No. Oh, summer or winter Olympics?
Oh, definitely summer. I grew up in South Mississippi. I mean, I didn't even see snow until I was like 17. So,
Favorite Olympic sport then?
well, I'll try to pick out something besides basketball since I've already talked about basketball. I actually got to go to the Summer Olympics back in 2016 and really liked going to swimming more than I thought.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I just never had thought swimming was all that exciting to watch, but it was really cool.
Amazing athletes.
And then it's the one time where I really watched track and field on television. So just incredible athletes, as you said.
Yeah.
Just a lot of fun.
Water polo always just amazes
That
me.
is fun. Although I'll throw this one at you. The one that we went to see that was kind of off the wall was table tennis. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And just amazing how it's not quite like Forrest Gump when he's, back there hitting long, but it was a lot of fun to watch. And it was in Brazil and they were going crazy for one of the guys. It's like this tiny table and all these people around. So it was kind of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, that's funny. That's a bucket list of mine. I think Paris 2024. I'm looking.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Favorite podcast?
I haven't been doing a lot of podcasts, but one that I watched recently, Rex Chapman has a new podcast, and I'm not a huge Rex Chapman fan in general, but it was pretty funny and enjoyed that.
Yeah, very good. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got a couple minutes. All right. Would you consider yourself a good cook?
No. I can follow instructions, but
Okay.
I'm not, not
Okay.
very creative in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we have been cooking a lot more. I like to grill.
Yep.
Like Quinn say I'm terrific at it, but he doesn't burn anything. So I
All
guess
right.
that's a
It's
success.
edible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I don't, there's a lot of spices and stuff in my house, but I usually I kind of just warm stuff up. That's kind of my skill set.
Yeah, during COVID, we did order some of those like Sun Basket or those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of have fun with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like saying you're an artist if you do painting by the numbers, but it was still fun.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I can follow directions too,
Right.
but normally I can also dial a number.
Right. Little
Give me a
DoorDash.
pizza real
Yeah.
quick. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What sports figure, I think maybe I asked this before, but what sports figure did you admire as a kid?
I followed basketball so much, and Pete Maravich was playing for the New Orleans Jazz, so I always thought he was pretty cool. And then for some reason, I didn't really play soccer growing up, but I always thought Pele was just such an awesome guy.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we didn't have soccer at all, but yeah, what an awesome experience there too. Oh, we do have another question. Let's go back. Okay. Okay. With the continued vision of growing ROA and a strong data-driven approach to athletics, how many data analysts and individuals do you currently have hired, and what's the projected growth? Good question.
First thing that comes to mind is Alan Grossbach put him up to this question. I think I was looking for more analytics help, but Pete, it's a great question and something that's squarely on our radar screen that we plan to hire either someone internally or some more analytics help. We did get some this year, but it's an area that we definitely need to improve upon. So I don't know exactly what the staff will look like. My hope is that, say 3 years from now, we'd have 2 or 3 analysts on
Nice.
staff.
Great. Fantastic. Certainly is data that's appreciated and valued and used, I think, and the want and need for more
Right.
of that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, and we're positioned so well right now. We have a lot of great data, but I think as Pete's alluded to, now you got to figure out what it all means, and
Right.
there's just so much of it that we can't expect the current staff that we have to get through all that and to be able to kind of figure out where the trends are.
Alan, I heard help is on the way. That's what I heard. I think, Aaron's off for Augusta. Yep. There was a couple of digs on the Chiefs, I think. Sorry. Sorry about the loss.
In case people forget, we did win a Super Bowl just 2 years ago.
That is true. It's not that far. I mean,
I actually grew up a Saints fan, but it's always fun to have the Chiefs do well. So it's been a good couple of years, even though we did lose the last one.
Yeah, that's all right. I have a feeling there might be a few more in the future.
As long as we have Pat Mahomes at quarterback.
He's all right.
Got a chance.
It's pretty good. Okay, so I think we're about done here. The last question, you knew it was coming. Those of you that were on board 2 years ago and Chicken Fried played us off the stage.
Yep.
What is the most played song on your playlist right now?
Well, I figured this might be coming, but I've really been narrowed it down to kind of artists. So I've been kind of in a mellow mood during COVID. So, some old school stuff like Van Morrison or even Simon and Garfunkel or Jim Croce, but then some newer people like Jack Johnson and a guy named Eric Lindell's from New Orleans. And they're not exactly came up in 2020, but they're more recent than Simon and Garfunkel. So,
all the young kids are like Simon and who?
And then I go back to my 80s days during college with REM or even Guns N' Roses or something crazy.
80s on the 8 is number one on my series. Yeah, number one.
Exactly.
Well, really good. I don't think Tony can play off any, any Simon and
I got
Garfunkel.
lots to choose from. He just find something.
But thanks for sitting down. I always enjoy this. It's super fun. And
Yeah.
as long as they keep asking, I'll keep coming back. So
Got Meg in Kansas City for at least a day, so it's all worth it. Thank you, Meg.
super fun to be
Appreciate it.
here and in person. Thanks everybody for joining in. Enjoy the rest of convention.